This guide has been inspected and approved by Luminous.
Hey guys, this is SUNSfan and welcome to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Lifestealer. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for him at the corresponding link. Lifestealer, otherwise known as Naix, or to some Naix, is a strength carry hero who thrives as a counter to other strength heroes. He has the unique ability to stay alive in a variety of ways, all of which will help him deal damage in the meantime. Skill build. There are quite a few different ways to skill Lifestealer. We'll try and narrow it down to two general builds. The first one we'll call our default build, which is for when you're jungling or feel confident in lane. If you plan to get first blood before you hit level 2, then start off with open wounds. Otherwise, stick with feast at level 1 and max it by 7. This will help you stay alive as well as deal extra damage to your opponents, whether they're heroes or just neutral creeps. At 2 and 4, you'll want to get a level of each of your other skills. And it really does depend on your lane for what you'll want to get first though. If you're against a bunch of nukers and have a slow or stun coupled with you, Rage would be the right choice. If you aren't going against any magical threats, then get open wounds. As with both builds, your ultimate infest is to be gotten at the standard 6, 11, and 16. So the question is, after maxing Feast at 7, which spell do you prioritize? Let's just look at it from a theory standpoint. Which spell will be more useful for you by leveling it past 1? Luckily, both Rage and Open Wounds use the same amount of mana regardless of what level they are, so we don't have to take that into account. Rage will add additional attack speed bonuses to you as well as increase the overall duration by 0.75 at each level. The actual effects of Open Wounds will stay relatively the same at all levels, not including the life leech, but the cooldown will be cut in half over the additional 3 levels. After going over the strengths and weaknesses, we'll generally say finish off Rage by 10 and then max Open Wounds last. The second build is for a more offensive lineup where you aren't meant to farm too much with Lifestealer. Instead, you'll be expected to participate in many fights. Start off with 1 level of Feast at 1 and proceed to max Rage by 7. This will give you the opportunity to be more aggressive more often. Now, to aid in your ganking, you'll want to get Open Wounds at level 2, 4, and then continue to max it after level 7. This means that you'll be using level 1 Feast for quite a while, as you'll be maxing that last. Item build. Starting items really depend on where you're laning. Like we've stated, Lifestealer is definitely viable in the jungle, but this guide will mostly focus on his laning strength. Either way, a Quelling Blade is a good choice for both. Aside from that, pick up your basic health regeneration and branches, which you could opt to make a wand at a later stage. Boots of choice for Lifestealer are either Power Treads or Phase Boots. Power Treads will give you good attack speed and stats, which of course is helpful for most carries. The Phase Boots will give you some damage and provide you opportunities to chase enemies a little bit more effectively. One thing you'll notice when playing Lifestealer for the first time is that heroes do tend to get away from you from time to time. If you feel strongly about remedying that, then Phase Boots could be a good choice. Before we get into the core items, I have to mention that Hand of Midas is a really good choice for Lifestealer if he gets off to a good farming start. This works for both laning and jungling. If you feel you're farming well, then try and pick it up before the 8-minute mark. Otherwise, it may not be worth it. This of course does mean that it'll be your first item pickup, even before boots. In other words, either rush it or don't get it at all. The one core item on Lifestealer is an armlet. There are a handful of heroes that really benefit from an armlet, and Lifestealer is one of them. The reason for this is 1, he's a strength hero, and 2, he has built-in lifesteal which can help him sustain the draining effects of the armlet itself. The armlet will provide Lifestealer a bunch of strength, attack speed, and damage, as well as the opportunity to create some clutch armlet toggles that could be the difference between life and death. After this, it's a little bit more wide open. Choosing between an Assault Cuirass and a Mjolnir seems to be a popular choice. We feel Assault is a little bit better overall, but Mjolnir is still effective, especially against lineups with good pushing. Beyond this, into the more luxury items, you can choose from some nice DPS related items such as a Deso, Daedalus, or even a Basher into Abyssal Blade. Or if you want a little bit more survivability, which could be a good idea with the armlet of yours, a Heart of Tarask should fit in nicely. Keep in mind that although redundant in some respect, a BKB might be needed if Rage is just not giving you enough time to right click. Also, if you really hate enemies getting away from you, we've seen players pick up a Force Staff or even a Blink Dagger to solve that little issue. Gameplay. Whether you're in the jungle or in the lane, just remember that Feast is arguably your best skill. It gives you both survivability and damage. It's the sole reason why Lifestealer is picked up against heroes with high strength gain, since Feast will deal damage and heal Lifestealer based on a percentage of the unit's current HP, meaning as the target gets lower in health, unfortunately Feast is less effective. If you're in a hairy situation, perhaps surrounded by a few enemy units, and you just need to stay alive long enough for your teammates to come to the rescue, or until Rage is off cooldown, start switching targets to those that have the highest HP, even if it's a creep. This could provide you the time needed to get away safely. Rage, on the other hand, is a very important skill in just about every situation. In teamfights, for example, you don't want to pop it too early just for the attack speed, since if you time it right, you can dodge multiple incoming enemy spells. This will obviously take some practice, but having a quick trigger finger could potentially waste the magic immune portion of the spell too early, and will thus get you killed a lot faster. Now, I will have to say that Open Wounds is easily one of the best single target slows in the game. Although it does taper off over time, the overall effects will last 8 seconds. Not only can it be used as a slow, but will also provide lifesteal to both you and your teammates. The percentage of life leech you gain from this includes magical spells, so the combination makes perfect sense. The slow from Open Wounds can set up some easy stuns and nukes, which in turn will heal your team for the proper percentage. In essence, you could just use this as a means to keep your team alive, not even worrying about the slow mechanic. And the spell we've talked about the least would be Infest. It has a lot of uses, both in an offensive and defensive nature. Remember that when infesting a creep, the enemy will not see what creep you're in. This could provide some hilarious initiations via the normal lane creeps. Otherwise, the best way to initiate with this skill is through another teammate, one preferably with a lot of mobility. But keep in mind that using this as an offensive skill could come back to bite you if you need it in a team fight. The damage itself is burst damage, and sometimes a quick hop in and out of a teammate in a fight will provide enough damage to kill a person or two. Don't underestimate the range, as it's 700. But of course, its most effective use is a combination of all that we've talked about. If you could theoretically get somewhat low, and then infest a high health creep in the middle of a fight to both heal you and deal damage to the opposing team, then that would obviously be the best case scenario. Unfortunately, creeps can be hard to come by in team fights, unless you're going against a Chen or Enchantress. Then both your Infest and potential Hand of Midas will shut them down hardcore. Friends and foes. Friends of Lifestealer are quite the mix. You can count those that create a devastating lane combination with him, such as Venomancer or Ancient Apparition, who both have skills that stack very well with the slow from Open Wounds. Or you can include those that are extremely mobile, since you can create what many like to call a Naix bomb with Infest. Heroes that fit this bill are Queen of Pain, Storm Spirit, and Nature's Prophet. On the other side of the coin, heroes that Lifestealer should try and stay away from are also the more mobile types, since he has such a hard time catching up. Heroes that have good escape mechanisms include Mirana, Weaver, and Windrunner. Lastly, if we're gonna mention counters, we have to bring up Ursa, since he will just tear through Lifestealer like the piece of man meat that he is. Thanks for watching, guys, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a big thanks to FlawlezZ and Luminous, who helped create this guide. You can check them out at their